Pittsburgh Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin names quarterback Mason Rudolph the starter versus the Bengals this week after benching Mitchell Trubisky. Also, he had more stuff to talk about, calling out his team and also giving some updates on his decisions that he made last week with more lies involved. So, I'm going to cover it all, I'm going to talk about it, and give you the update. But I'm going to start off with quarterback Mason Rudolph being named the starter by the Steelers. So obviously, last week, at the very end of the game, the last 2 minutes of the game actually, Mitchell Trubisky overthrows George Pickens in the middle of the field, and then it's intercepted by the Colts defender. And I guess that was the final straw for Mike Tomlin starting Mitchell Trubisky, because after that, the next possession, he got benched in the final 2 minutes of the game, and the Steelers turned to Mason Rudolph at quarterback. And now, on Monday, Mike Tomlin named Rudolph the starter due to their comfortability with his level of play, what he could bring to the table, and Tomlin says that they will get Mason Rudolph as many snaps, as many reps as possible throughout the week to prepare him. But also, he did not rule out Kenny Pickett to come back off of his ankle injury to make his return this week as well. He said the change is simple. Tomlin is seeing what he wants, not seeing what he wants from the offense. And while Trubisky isn't all at fault, he says that the quarterback play was just not up to par and they're just comfortable with Mason Rudolph. Here's his quote. "We don't like what we're looking at the consistency of it. I'm not trying to lay it all on Mitch's feet. It's more about Mason Rudolph being deserving of an opportunity." So, let's just cover all that about Mason Rudolph being named the starter. Because if you're saying that you're more comfortable with Mason Rudolph at the quarterback position, then why does it not make sense that you signed Mitchell Trubisky to a $10 million contract for multiple years last offseason to be the starter, and then Kenny Pickett took over the starter, and then you still have him on the team to be a backup at that price tag as well. But while you also have Mason Rudolph on your roster, who's making the minimum in the NFL right now, yet you have more comfortability starting Mason Rudolph to be your starter. That just doesn't make sense why you would start Mitchell Trubisky for all these weeks, make him lose those games, take you out of the playoffs, and then say you're more comfortable with Mason Rudolph. That just doesn't add up to me. Obviously, yes, Mason Rudolph has been the starter before in the 2019 season when Ben Roethlisberger got injured with his elbow injury and he ended up almost making the playoffs. He also got benched many times for Duck Hodges in that season as well. So I guess you could say, yes, they're more comfortable with him because he's been on the team longer, but it just doesn't make sense why you would turn to him based off that comfort. But you didn't turn to him based off that comfort 2 weeks ago or last week. But now, when things are going downhill, now you turn to him. They're obviously looking for an answer at the quarterback position, and they're trying anything they want, and now he's just saying anything. Also, something that just doesn't make sense that Mike Tomlin did was throw Mason Rudolph into the game with 2 minutes to go versus the Colts. Why would he do that? He basically just ruined Mason Rudolph's reputation basically on live television, basically showing that he doesn't stay ready and stuff like that. That could be interpreted in how many fans kind of saw it because they saw Mason Rudolph on live TV. It was kind of a live broadcast, the only game being played at that time, so everyone across the US or wherever it was watching it, and many people thought, okay, he's not ready. He still can't play in this league. But no, they really put him in a bad situation and threw him into the fire because the backup quarterback usually doesn't get many reps in practice. So Mason Rudolph probably got 0 first-team reps with the starters, meaning that he only practiced with the backups and very limited opportunities. And Mitchell Trubisky took all of the first-team reps in practice. So when Mason Rudolph came in the game, he just wasn't prepared and he didn't have that connection with the starters. And all season, he's not practicing with the starters either. In training camp, he's not. In training camp, he's practicing with the third stringers. In practice, he's usually practicing with the third stringers. And then this week, he practices with the second stringers. So you see that, and then you throw him into the fire and you show the world watching that one game that's playing that day is that Mason Rudolph isn't ready. He still can't play in this league. So they kind of threw him into the fire and put him in a very bad situation. And you knew this, and you still did it, knowing that the next week he was going to be named your starter. So you even gave him a chance to get injured late in the game when they had no chance. And then something else that he did was he called his timeouts in that game. He called his timeouts, and then the next possession, he just ran out the clock. Doesn't make sense. I thought maybe they called the timeouts to see what Mason Rudolph could do. Give him another chance to throw the football. Give him another chance to see if they can make that comeback, even though they basically had no chance and they would need an onside kick and stuff of that nature. But no, he called his timeouts, allowed the team to kick a field goal, allowed Indianapolis Colts to kick a field goal, get more points on the board, and then just run out the clock and take a knee and run it with Jaylen Warren to end the game. So those are two things that just don't make sense, throwing Mason Rudolph in a bad situation. Now naming a starter this week. So this situation with Mason Rudolph and just Mike Tomlin's decision is just something I want to cover before I cover this next topic. But this next topic is Mike Tomlin kind of calling out his position groups and his team and also explain why he turned down the field goal. So Mike Tomlin says in terms of his wide receiver players that they have been dealing with adversity issues and says that they have some maturity issues. He also went on to say that George Pickens, he kind of got better this week, but he still has a long way to go because he was basically asked about that run blocking play with Jaylen Warren where he took the play off. So he's basically calling out the wide receivers, saying that maturity issues. I really don't see it other than maybe George Pickens. No other wide receiver on the team is really giving them the problem. So him saying the wide receiver group as a whole doesn't make sense. Deontay Johnson is usually calm. He had that 1 week where he kind of was upset, but other than that, I don't see Deontay Johnson having maturity issues. He's fine, I believe. It's more of just George Pickens. But even this week, I didn't see George Pickens having a breakdown on the sideline, him having a meltdown. All it is, he needs to give more effort, and that's what it's continuing to be. His players need to give more effort, and George Pickens needs to actually block, especially when he's actually involved in the play. It's one thing not to block when it's on the complete opposite side of the field and the play's in the end very shortly after and your block doesn't mean anything. But when your block actually means something, yes, you need to give that effort because your block matters. You could have easily got a touchdown if you just held your block. But no, he didn't hold it, and then Jaylen Warren got tackled, and then the Steelers, I think they ended up getting a touchdown that drive, but that's just what happened. So he calls out his players and his wide receivers specifically. Now, the next topic, the one that we all been waiting for. Why did he turn down that field goal and didn't allow Chris Boswell to kick a 56-yard field goal? And it comes with more lies. So before I even get into that, of why he turned it down, what's Mike Tomlin's favorite quote? He says, "We do not live in our fears." That's one of his quotes. That's one of his sayings. That's what he says all the time. And what does he say about the reason why he turned it down? He says he did not want to give Indianapolis a short field for a leaky defense due to injuries. So obviously their defense was depleted in the secondary and the linebacker group. They're dealing with injuries. People kicked out the game. But he said he did not kick the field goal because he does not want to take a chance of missing it and then giving the defense a short field to work with and having to stop an offense of the Colts. So basically, what does that mean? He's living his fears. You don't trust Chris Boswell to kick a 56-yard field goal, but then you go for it on 4th and 10 on your own 30-yard line, the drive after. It makes no sense. Those two contradict itself because he literally went for it on 4th and 10 on his 30-yard line. The next drive later, once if he didn't get that, then you would have gave your defense a bad field position. So it just doesn't make sense. You could have been at one possession game if you just kicked that field goal. But no, he did not kick the field goal. You've seen Chris Boswell's reaction. He was mad. He wanted to do it. So obviously Mike Tomlin, more lies, more lies, more lies, more contradictory statements. And the Steelers, they're just really bad right now. Hopefully they're able to turn around. If they win out, they have a good chance to still make the playoffs, but they basically need to win out at this point. So with that being said, that's basically all the updates from Mike Tomlin's conference from today. He started off by Mason Rudolph being named the starter, and then he called out some players on his offense, saying they need to mature better, and then he explained his field goal reasoning. So that's all it is. Hope you enjoyed this update of your Pittsburgh Steelers news. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications for this channel, but also let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on Mike Tomlin's announcements and his answers to the questions about Mason Rudolph, the field goal, and calling out his players. Let me know your thoughts on the Steelers as a whole as well. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys all later. Till next time, I'm out. Peace.